Okay, we're back. Lecture 4, Part 3, Thinking at the Margin. So what we want to talk about is the marginal benefits and marginal costs. The extra benefit of consuming or producing one more unit of the goods or service versus the extra cost of consuming, producing one more unit of the goods or service. So you can think about it like chocolate-covered cherries. You first chocolate-covered cherry in the box, you say, man, that thing's going to be good. Don't get grossed out if you hate these things, but just go along with me for a minute. And you eat it because the benefits exceed the costs. The next one, well, that chocolate covered cherry, wow, that was so sweet, but I can handle one more. And you eat it again because the benefits exceed the costs. The third one, no, it's the benefits and the costs are getting pretty close. And it might be that the costs are now above the benefits because if I eat another one of these things, I'm going to get sick. Right? And so we're thinking about every decision at the margin. Each change we're evaluating, is it good for us in the sense that net benefits are positive, or is it bad for us in the sense that net benefits are going to be negative? So we are thinking about benefits and costs, but rather than, like we did for the COVID-19 study, think about them in aggregate. We didn't do each individual. If it saved 1.2 million lives, we weren't saying, okay, what about life 1, 2, 3, 10,000, 100,000? We just took it in aggregate. Now we're thinking about it at the margin. So when we think at the margin, it's the term you hear. And the rule is you stop consuming when marginal benefits equal marginal costs. When marginal benefits equal marginal costs, we've captured all the gains from trade, all the gains from consuming this particular product. If marginal benefits are greater than marginal costs, consume. If marginal benefits are less, stop. Don't consume. That's just crazy. That's just punishing yourself. Your net benefits are negative. All right, so the graph looks like this that we use, where we've got marginal benefits and we got marginal costs. It looks like a supply and demand curve in many ways, because it has the same shape of the marginal costs are increasing and the marginal benefits are decreasing. So in some ways you could say the marginal benefits represent your maximum willingness to pay to consume, and the marginal cost then represents your minimum willingness to accept payment to sell the good. You can think of them exactly the same way, where again you have P star and Q star as the market equilibrium price and quantity. We're giving them different labels because we're using them as a way to evaluate each individual quantity. And we're giving a way for us to construct a comparison when we talked about that private and that social benefits or costs and the wedge that we've created. Okay, so what do we gain with this tool? All right, what we're able to do is capture both market and non-market costs and benefits. And by market, I mean a market. We buy and sell things. And by non-market, I mean like environmental services, or all the things that the market price ignored when we talked about the externality. Your impact on me, on my health, by coughing if you have COVID, right? That would be a non-market cost, or that would be a cost on me. Me avoiding you coughing on me because you wear a mask and I wear a mask, those things would represent social benefits. So we can expand the scope of economics outside of the market to consider all these non-market exchanges. That's the main benefit of this tool, is it gives us a license essentially, or a method or a map to be able to go beyond just the regular marketplace and get into all these public policy issues. Like it or not, economists are used around the globe to advise policymakers and politicians and business people and etc. because of tools like this, where we are willing to discuss private costs, social costs, private benefits, social benefits. So this is a super useful tool to think about these problems. All right, so marginal benefits, marginal costs. Why is marginal benefits decreasing? This is just the law of diminishing returns. Just what I said in that chocolate covered cherry example. I get a lot of benefit from that first bite. I get less benefit from the second bite. I get less benefit from the third bite, and maybe I even go into negative territory on a fourth chocolate covered cherry. Why is marginal cost increasing? Well, we're saying that opportunity costs increase at an increasing rate. And I always think of the 90-10 rule. Engineers use this all the time. You get 90% done with 10% of the effort, and the remaining 10% of the job takes 90% of the effort. So it's like you make a lot of progress at first, and then that last bit, just like in studying for these these quizzes, you can make an initial bunch of progress, and then to really fine tune it and really think about it, man, it takes all the effort and all the time to get that last little increment. So marginal costs are increasing with the idea that the more I start producing this thing, I'm giving up more and more opportunities. In other words, the more I listen to me talk, the more opportunities I am giving up, because after listening to me for an hour, there's just other things you want to do. Other things have more benefits than listening to me, right? Or the costs of listening to me get higher because you've got other things you might want to do, whatever they happen to be. Okay, so what's opportunity cost? Opportunity cost is the value foregone by your choice, right? So it's the value of the road not taken. So economists, when they talk about costs, again, we're not talking about price times quantity. We're talking about cost as a surplus measure. So when you are the price of something, that's the price of it. The market price. I paid $100 for these shoes. That's the market price. What's the opportunity cost, though? Well, the opportunity cost might have been $200, because that would have been my consumer surplus if I had spent that money on a different pair of shoes, right? Because the maximum I was willing to pay for a different pair of shoes might have been $500, and the shoes cost $300, so I would have had a consumer surplus of $200. So the opportunity cost of me buying that first pair of shoes is $200. All right, so let's take an example. You want a free ticket to see Trampled by Turtles. And suppose Bob Dylan is playing the same night, and it's your next best alternative show. The tickets to Dylan cost $50, and on any given day, the maximum you would be willing to pay is $60 to see Dylan. Now, what's your opportunity cost of seeing Trampled by Turtles? 0, 10, 50, or 60? So think about it for a second. I just said opportunity costs are the surplus you're giving up by going to see Trampled by Turtles. Now, if you recalled that, then you'd say, well, $10, because yeah, you spent $50 on Dylan, but your willingness to pay was $60, your max willingness to pay. So your benefits of going to see Dylan, or your consumer surplus, is $10, right? Because it was $60, but you gave $50 of it to Dylan and the concert promoter. And so what you kept from going to see Dylan is $10. So your opportunity cost of seeing Trampled by Turtles is $10. Not 50, not 60, not 0. It's the consumer surplus you gave up by not seeing Bob Dylan. Right? So if your value of seeing Trampled by Turtles exceeds $10, then you should go see Trampled by Turtles. If your value of seeing Trampled by Turtles is less than $10, then go see Dylan. Pay the $50 and go enjoy his Bobness. All right, so let's look at COVID again, marginal benefits, marginal costs, and thinking about mask wearing. All right, so here we've got time spent wearing a mask. Here we've got marginal benefits of wearing the mask, private. The marginal costs of wearing the mask, increasing, and they're private. And A would represent how much you would wear the mask, the time spent wearing the mask. Let's just say it's 5 hours for ease. Well, you heard that squeaky noise. That's an externality of my dog bringing in her squeaky toy and squeaking it near the computer. Okay, so now if I were to account for the marginal benefits to society of me wearing the mask, because now if I cough and I have COVID, I'm not contaminating as many people as if I didn't wear the mask. What society would want me to do would be to consider the marginal benefit social and the marginal cost private. So then I would actually wear the mask more hours. I'd go from A to B, right? Because now I'm considering how my actions impact other people. And so I would definitely wear the mask longer. So that would represent the wedge between private benefits and social benefits. Okay, so I'd increase from point A to B. The marginal costs of me wearing the mask. I gotta catch my dog here and throw that thing out. There we go. Sorry about that. Externalities kick into lectures too. All right, so that's what I just said. Now, what about this case? Where, in your mind, wearing a mask has a bigger social cost than just wearing the mask, right? So the costs of private costs are, it's a little harder to breathe, a little hotter, your glasses fog up. There's different things that if you haven't worn a mask all the time, you haven't gotten used to. But there are some people who say wearing a mask really has a bigger social cost because it is surrendering to tyranny, right? You are giving up your individual liberty. You are now under the control of Big Brother and government. And so the marginal social costs of wearing this mask are much steeper, much more expensive. And you would spend less time wearing this mask, whether you considered the marginal benefits private or social, than you would if you didn't think of the mask as eroding your individual liberties, right? So point C here now is you actually wearing the mask even less. And if you really thought it was pure tyranny, that marginal cost line might be, might be a vertical line so that you wouldn't wear it at all. Point C would be right on the the vertical axis over there by the dollar sign, right? So in that case, now the marginal cost of wearing the mask is social tyranny, the opportunity cost of a loss of liberty, right? The slippery slope to communism. So you can lay out the pros and cons of wearing a mask to control for COVID based on how people think about both the social benefits and the social costs at the margin. And you can try to explain where people would wear this mask, either closer to zero or closer to all the time, based on whether they thought the marginal benefits were higher or whether the marginal costs were significantly higher than we have before. All right. I think we will stop there for lecture 3, part 3.